We're still dissecting the former President Obasanjo's letter to the incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari's letter, and it's still been an issue that is still on the front burner of Nigerian polity. In fact, then different controversies continue to trail this letter. Mr. Segun Showunmi, it's a pleasure having you on SaharaTv.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's just get down to this. What was your first reaction when this letter came from board?
Before reading the letter, before going to read it, the first reaction I had was, he has come again. Obasanjo has come again. He wrote a letter, the last one that comes to memory, he wrote a letter during the Goodluck Jonathan era. And I had the privilege of addressing that issue too on Channels TV then. And I remember that one of the things that I said was that, I expect, or I always expect that any one of them that have been presidents before, and we have a number of them, I listed them all out, Shagari, Yakubu Gowon, and the whole works, Babangida, Abdul Salam, then Buhari, and co. And I said that there's supposed to be an elite group that will become a repository of support, advice, and sometimes camaraderie encouragement to an incumbent. Why was I saying that then? I was saying that then because it's easy for us to take it for granted that the man who's sitting on the chair as president of Nigeria, that it's a very easy task. And then I thought that whoever was president must have an opportunity to understand the situation better than those of us that just, basically are not presidents yet and are complaining and all that, and the generality of Nigeria. So when he wrote the second letter, I took time to read it. After I first said, he has started again. But I started to read it, and I know him well. He's a very detailed man. He's quite thorough. He works very hard. Obasanjo works very hard. As a young man, it's difficult to catch up with his pace. So I understand what it took him to pen this letter to Buhari. And so when I started to read it, it didn't disappoint. The letter was, like I like to say, every word that Chief Olusegun Obasanjo put in that letter must have painstakingly been etched out of him to place on paper, and it couldn't have been easy. The reason why it couldn't have been easy is that I know him also, that he knows that President Buhari is first of all a comrade and his former colleague and his junior in the army. There's that esprit de corps there. So he's not likely to want to just go and throw him under the trailer. I also know that General Obasanjo, President Obasanjo, former President Obasanjo, knows and is not unmindful of the fact that he had just about joined everybody and any other person to create the platform that produced the presidency for Buhari. And therefore, he knows that it will be foolhardy for him and not easy for him to come to Nigeria, to the Nigerian space. I'm telling us that after you have dragged those who wanted to drag in that direction, you are coming out to come and start saying he doesn't this, he doesn't that. So the only part I didn't agree with in his letter is the part where he was like suggesting, let him go and start, let them do PDP this, do APC, cancel PDP, cancel APC, start afresh again, start coming up with a new coalition, calling it a coalition of Nigeria and all that. I felt that, first of all...
Sorry, I crave your indulgence before going into, the context of, the coalition movement itself. He actually talked about the PDP, and he scolded the PDP, as a matter of fact, in his letter. Permit me to quote some of the statements he said. The recent show of PDP must give grave and great concern to lovers of Nigeria, to claim, as has been credited to the chief kingmaker of PDP, that for procuring the Supreme Court judgment for his faction of the party, he must dictate the tune all the way, and this is indeed fraught with danger. What's your response to that? Do you agree with that?
That comment is extremely reckless, and I'll tell you why, in my opinion. It's reckless in the sense that we all, as Nigerians, especially an elder statesman like that, owe it to ourselves to protect our institution. In the body of that phrase and that sentence you read, in one breath, he has gone after the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, because he introduced procured. And the truth of the matter is that no such thing happen. If you say that when people go and get their lawyers and pay their sons and all that, if you consider that to mean, if that's what he meant by procurement, I can't, fault him on legal fees that people are paid. But for you to look at the highest court in the land, when all else fails, that's where you go to go and ask them to make a pronouncement on issues. For them to make a pronouncement and make a final judgment, there was no need for that phrase procure, because that's not true. It's actually even what you call, there's a phrase in law, when they say contempt, it's a contemptuous statement against the highest courts in the land, and I want to plead with Obasanjo, and on his behalf, I withdraw that part for him, because he's my dad in another way. The part where he said the person in charge of the PDP and all that, I understand where that sentiment seeped in from. That sentiment from somebody who is observing from afar seeped in from the huge cry that followed the convention, where, okay, before the convention, people thought, okay, they deserve to be, maybe the Southwest should get chairman, and all of the big gladiators from the Southwest threw their hearts in, but they George, Daniel, everybody, Adeniro and all that. And at the end of the day, the man we like to call total chairman, which is Secondus won. Take the case of the national chairmanship of the PDP just passed. We are going into a delegate election as Yorubas. We're going to be going into a delegate election with 5 other sections. We've broken Nigeria into 6 geopolitical zones. Within other zones, we have been told that the South, they've said they didn't do microzoning. If they had said they did microzoning, they could have microzoned it to maybe just the Southwest. But somewhere along the line, the conversation came and we were very clear that there is no microzoning. That means anybody from the Southwest, anybody from the Southeast, anybody from the South-South could vie. And we went there with about 6 people. And of the 6 people that we went to the convention with, only 3 of them were young, relatively young. There was a young man from, I think, Ekiti State, Segun, who was young. So, okay. There was Jimmy Agbade, who is not too young, because anybody over 60 is not too young, but relatively young, relative to where Nigeria has been, where 80-year-old people are sent to America to go and be ambassadors. A 60-year-old will have to be a small boy. And then there's Daniel, who's also in the 60s. So the 3 of them were relatively young. The ones that were in their 70s were also there. I don't know how old Ari Adedoja is. I don't want to pigeonhole him. The older ones couldn't find a way for the corporate interest of the Southwest to figure out how to endorse one of them or drive a process that one of them will be presented or 2. Every man went in there pressing the throttle to full speed until the last day. So how are we going to win? There's also the fact that politics, with the greatest respect to our listeners, is a game of interest. When the cross negotiation and the horse trading starts taking place, a lot of terrible things, unintended or deliberately, can happen. For instance, if we made PDP made one mistake in the build-up to that convention, which I will accept. That is the mistake that we should have calmly asked each of those, we should have gone into those zones and insisted that some of the best hands or the best hands should come. But what then happened when we got to the convention was that if you want to sell your governorship candidate to me, you tended to also say, me too, I'm selling my secretaryship candidate to you. And it was in those kinds of way that they came up with that unity list when they had gone round. So the people who found themselves on the unity list, without disrespecting them, cannot in good conscience say that they are 100% better than some of their other people who presented themselves and were not considered because of the Godfather, I back you arrangement. What made it look the way Obasanjo is saying was because Governor Wike and Governor Fawashe did not moderate their excitement and exuberance. It was not necessary for Governor Wike to say make a statement that maybe a whole race can latch onto and start acting like he has insulted them. I don't think he meant to insult them, but that's part of the burden of high leadership. The burden of high leadership is that you don't have the opportunity, you don't have the privilege of snapping. We can snap. If somebody is, we can snap. We're not there yet. But if you are already in the eye of the storm and you are carrying heavy responsibility as a leader, you have to be careful not to snap. So back to the Obasanjo letter.
Yeah, honestly, Mr. Segun, it's quite laudable when we hear this. But, you know, your party was at the helm of affair for over 16 years.
Yes.
Why did you party this way?
Well, let me say that I have also had a long time to do an introspection as to where we were in 1998, or even if you like the Nadeko era, and where we are, where we got into the democracy and all that. You will see that where you can find some developmental strides taking place consistently is not within the generation of people that have been the one running Nigeria since 1966. I can give you some example. Take Lagos State. Whatever you want to say about Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Lagos is working. I was born here, bred here, grew up here, traveled here. We came, when we started coming back in 99, I couldn't live in Lagos. My dad lives in Allen. I grew up here. Lagos was such a mess. I ran to go and start living in Abeokuta, Ogun State. And I have observed, Bola Tinubu then became the governor, He started to stabilize Lagos, get it all out, do the articulation of the roads so that we could be spending like 10 hours from Alausa to Allen or to Okwebi. And then I saw that Fashola came. He tried to also expand the vision a little bit, do a bit of a turning Lagos around to start doing the Lekki corridor and all that. And I'm saying, Nambode, I don't belong to their party. I am not a member of their party. I have no reason to say, but you will see that they're doing well. Obasanjo, which is PDP now, not the APC Obasanjo, the PDP Obasanjo, ensured that, having seen that the amount of money Nigeria was paying by the deductions we were paying from debts that had been accumulated over the years, some of them during his own era, first time, some of them during Yakubu Gowon, some of them during Yakubu. Anyway, the debt up to the point when he came. Obasanjo crisscrossed the world, marketing Nigeria positively, begging the diasporan audience to come in until we're able to get debt forgiveness. You see, when you bring a slave too close to you, after a while, he will even forget that he's a slave. He will begin to, even, if you're not even careful, he'll be dragging with the son of the house. It is because Nigerians have forgotten how difficult that debt was on our neck. So how can you then say, let's even waste our time with GSM? But you know what it was like when everybody queued for NEPA. And Obasanjo then moved the economy the way he could. Forget also that in agriculture, Obasanjo came up and said, okay, let us look for some product that Nigeria can be doing. One of them was the cassava revolution. It worked. In fact, we produced so much cassava until we had a cassava glut. They had to start a backward integration of saying, okay, let them be using it to do bread and some ethanol and so many other things. Obasanjo stabilized the country from being a place where, after 2 years of democracy, fellow countrymen will answer. We had our first civilian-to-civilian transfer of power then. We made, so PDP...
That was the Obasanjo year.
No, I'm going to go to the Yaradua era. Yaradua, oh, may so rest in peace. I have a feeling that if Yaradua had lived long and he had completed his time, I have a feeling that Yaradua would have been the best civilian president Nigeria would have had to date. You know why? Because his thought processes suggested so. He's a bureaucrat. He understands what it means to put the nation on a sustainable path that doesn't need a strong man to run. But you know what happened then? And Jonathan, the most vilified of them all, who will probably be praised continuously as time goes by. Jonathan came in and immediately he understood that, okay, we need to now move this country in a fairly less militant direction. He did the amnesty program, which already just started and completed. He looked at the North and felt, look, we need to put education more, we need to get more serious education here. He put universities everywhere. Every state that didn't have, he put one there, because he understood that those are growth poles. Do you know just how difficult it is to unbundle NEPA and to privatize it? They've been trying to do it since God knows when. Jonathan was able to do that. It's akin to the fact that when we privatized Nitel, we started getting the benefit. The first time we were buying SIM cards, you know how much we were buying it? I know people who bought their SIM cards for 150. I know those who bought themselves theirs for 72. I know those who bought their... So today, your SIM card is almost free. President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan also, recall very well, he tried to finish this conversation around fuel scarcity once and for all in Nigeria. Every time he wanted to go in a particular direction and the noise in the country said, no, 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 you are not governing because of yourself, you are governing on behalf of the people. Some of these things cost him. Now, in terms of, after Jonathan, who else again? Almost everybody has been covered.
So why did you not lose government? Why did you lose?
We will lose government occasionally, even if we do the best and we do better than this. Democracy has in it an inbuilt control mechanism. In fact, I keep saying, and I'm saying it for the uptenth time, the greatest thing that has happened to our democracy is that APC won in 2015, even for us PDP. Some of the volatility that is happening in this country today, the price of oil crashing and all of the issues, recession and it may not have happened like that under us. I can tell you why it will not happen under us. Right. I'm coming to that, but if there hadn't been a change of government, it would have become so difficult for even for the PDP itself, to retain the minimum goodwill required for people to be able to serve them. Because they had made up their mind via misinformation, some lies, some exaggeration, some propaganda, that one party or one PDP or one person was the problem. And they gave the power to the APC. Nigerians themselves are screaming blue murder. Sometimes when I hear them scream at the APC, I used to chuckle. I chuckle because I don't want to laugh aloud. The enterprise and the space in Nigeria must be a place where we're wishing and wanting our government to always get it right. So there is nothing to be happy about when the citizens are cringing and screaming and shouting and their lives are not better. The PDP could have managed this present situation better. And I'll tell you my reason. Sometimes in 2004, the entire world went into a tailspin. That in the economy. You will remember that was the time they were talking about housing crisis, housing fund crisis, mortgage crisis. The world was in a recession. It was in a global recession, a more biting global recession, not even occasioned only by the prices of hydrocarbon. It was occasioned by many other things, including maybe the world economy wanted to breathe out. In all of this, I must single out my sister, the Minister of Finance. Every day, anytime I see Kemi Adeosun, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun on national television, my heart used to leap for joy. First, because she's from my state. Two, because I know she's a younger generation. She's not like these people I described that can never let anything positive happen in Nigeria. I can almost see where she wants to take the country to. And I can see the energy she's putting in there. I can see how she's blocking the leakages. I can see how she's trying to get them to expand taxation. I even used to ask myself, how did she even manage to carry these wasteful states during this recession? How did she manage to do it until the feeding bottle economy of Nigeria did not even collapse and everybody would just start crying like babies that the feeding bottle has been removed from their neck? Because you must know the 36 plus 1 states from the FCT in Nigeria, the only thing they do apart from Lagos, so let me say 36, but Lagos is not part of them, is that they'll just run to Abuja cap in hand, just waiting for federal allocation. And if that federal allocation were not to come, the vast majority of them would be in trouble. When did Nigerians become a people say that will just wake up in the morning and start killing themselves like this? That means that it is time now, as a citizen of Nigeria, as a government, if I were the president, it is time now for us to insist, like they do in Germany. There's something in Germany they call Anmeldung. What it means is that every person in that state is expected to be registered to an address. Therefore, if somebody stops me and says, Segun Showunmi, once he just mentioned my name, it is expected that the address of where I live will come up. Do you know what that does for us? It means that even if somebody goes to commit a crime, you can then backward integrate and know where he lives. From there, you can question his neighbor. Now, these are the kinds of things that some of us are saying when we say these people that are leading us in their 80s and all that. We're not refusing to say thank you for their sacrifice. We're not refusing to say you have tried. What we are saying is that nature does not even give you the agility that this time demands. These times demand a lot of agility. We have to be in a hurry, not in a hurry to make you redundant, but we have to be in a hurry to compete ourselves with the world. Imagine if our president, any of our presidents, the ones that have gone, apart from Jonah, who was under 60 there, can you imagine if they go to France, how would they even feel? They will stand in front of a 31-year-old man. They will give him all the respect that is due him because of his state. He's so much younger than them, and more than likely they will curtsy. And when he starts to throw tantrums, they won't be able to match him. But do you think that if it was younger people, we will first of all close our own country and fix our country? No nation is going to build another mass nation for him. We cannot have population, be lucky enough to have hydrocarbon that everybody is selling, have the stability of weather, have very good vegetation, and be saying we cannot develop and grow our economy. How did Abu Dhabi do it? If China is too far, we go to Dubai. I look at Saudi Arabia, I look at Dubai. That one even happened in our own generation. We saw it happen in our time. And we suddenly, from Dubai not being a location that anybody talked about in the world, it was able to snatch a large chunk of the tourism market and even a large chunk of so many other markets from Europeans, just by following the axiom, if you build it, they will come. And they built it. So what am I saying? You see, the purpose of speaking for me, when people say come and do interview, the purpose of doing it is just because I want us to increase our love for Nigeria. I want us to increase our patriotism for this country. And I want us to all begin to think more about how can we get it done. We can, okay, you can belong to this side, I belong to that side, it doesn't matter. If you are here today, it's not this country. And we will need to say, and say very clearly, the churches and the mosques, they have to take it easy. This is not a nation, this is a nation that is religious. But we can ask the churches and their general overseers who like to jump in and just offer all sorts of annoying, overheating comments when there's a crisis in the country. We can ask them, what have you people done in terms of social corporate responsibility to stabilize even the places that Jesus Christ told you to go and evangelize? Have you gone there to go and put a school? Have you gone there to put a borehole? Have you done anything free for them? Have you even done for the ones that are paying tithes in your church? If the first generation of Christians, the Baptists, the Anglican, the Father Koka, the Ajayi, if they didn't come here and do education and health and all of those things, how would you people have even been trained? So let's not be sanctimonious unduly. Every man has a duty. And the duty of each and every one of us is to make sure that how do we want to stand before God? If you said you didn't go to school before, I've sent people to come and send you to school. You now have universities. Okay, you don't want to go to university. The internet is there. Anything you wish to know, knowledge is no longer a thing that anybody should be boasting about. Because whatever it is that you even think you know, 5 seconds after another man takes his computer and Googles it, he'll get enough research material. If he wants to read, he'll read and know it. So the world is now ready. And Africa must be ready. And our leaders must be ready. We should empathize with them a bit. I always say, one of the dangers in Nigeria is that
Mr. Segun, I have to cut you off of there. I mean, it's been a very, very insightful analysis we've gotten from you. We hope that on another occasion we will have the privilege of calling you. You oblige us to be here in the studio. Thank you very much for this analysis, please.
God bless you. Thank you very much.